Successful travel blogger Tracy Wise gets invited to a small B&B in Vermont so she can help revive their business. As she gets closer to the owner's son Graham, she gets more conflicted about her work. Tracy is thrilled about how the video on her blog, Travel Wise, has turned out. She discusses how amazing it would be to spend Christmas in Lucerne, Switzerland. She's happy that her boyfriend Mark is coming back to the States for a Christmas getaway with her, since his meeting in Paris got cancelled. Graham, the owner at the Silver Peak Bed and Breakfast, watches Tracy's video and shows it to his mom, Sarah, and aunt, Barbara. They love her video but don't understand why a famous blogger like her would come to Vermont to review their small bed and breakfast. Graham knows she has traveled everywhere and would love to spend Christmas there. It's also the first year their biggest competition, the Parkview Hotel, has opened and they don't have any guests. He knows having Tracy there will be good for their business if even some of her followers decide to visit them. They go through her blog and land on a video with her and Mark enjoying a quiet night in. Sarah, who owns the B&B with Graham, thinks they can invite Tracy and her boyfriend for a romantic getaway. Tracy gets a message from the B&B and shares with her friend Annie how exciting it will be to spend Christmas in Vermont with Mark. Annie knows she has been with Mark for a year but has hardly seen him. She feels like Tracy might be more in love with the idea of a perfect man with a good job than the guy himself. While she insists she is happy with Mark, Annie wants a passionate and meaningful relationship for her. She knows Annie is just trying to be a good friend with her advice, and forgives her since she has an angel for a baby. Graham is repairing everything at the B&B to make sure Tracy's stay is perfect, since this is very important for their business. Sarah appreciates how much he has done since his dad passed away. They also make fun of the big hotel that is trying to steal their customers and know they don't have Sarah's famous scones. Tracy gets a call from the CEO of Lux Voyage magazine, Sam Phillips. It's a very prestigious magazine she reads regularly, and Sam is glad she follows them since he has a job offer for her. He wants her to review one of their 5-star accommodations as part of an audition, before he gives her the job in the magazine. He promises exciting opportunities and plenty of international travel like him, since he's currently on his way to Finland where he's sure to see the Northern Lights. She finds a list of options in her email, one of which is the Parkview Hotel in Silver Peak, where she's headed. She wonders if it'll be a conflict of interest to review both properties, but Annie knows she can conveniently handle this situation. Tracy has reached Silver Peak early to stay at Parkview before the B&B and meets Jenny at the diner, who suggests her famous gingerbread milkshake for her. She texts Annie about her reaching safely, just when Jenny's husband, Dan, also comes over and hopes she's not staying at the Parkview as a visitor. He mentions Graham is like a brother to him, so he's partial about the B&B. Tracy knows he must be talking about the same Graham, who also walks in at the time and asks what everyone is discussing about him. Tracy drops her milkshake on him when she turns to look back, and he instantly recognizes her from her videos. Graham explains to Jenny and Dan that she's about to review their B&B, but is surprised she has come so early. It seems like she wants to clarify that she's staying somewhere else, but he instantly offers to make some arrangements for her at the B&B so they can get her settled. He calls Sarah to inform her about Tracy's early arrival, and even if she's a few days early, they know it's important to receive her properly. While Tracy enjoys her milkshake, Jenny doesn't let Dan have any because of his cholesterol. When Graham asks about her boyfriend, she claims he will be a few days late, so she might have to stay a bit longer. He's fine with whatever she has planned and takes her to the B&B. She asks to make a quick call before coming in and is relieved to see Mark is already packing for Vermont. Sarah and Barbara are arguing about the desserts when Graham comes in to inform them that Tracy will stay alone for a few days till her boyfriend comes. She informs Mark about the mix-up, but he needs to talk about something else. He's packing for Paris instead and will not be able to make it for their Vermont trip because of work. He thinks they will always be busy and in different places, and also knows he bores her with his work. She wants to meet him halfway, but he's sure their relationship can't work and breaks up with her. Barbara wonders why she's just standing outside and invites her in to get settled. Sarah brings her special elderberry scones and asks if Mark is joining them. Tracy is still shocked from her conversation with him, while Sarah goes on about how amazing they seem as a couple. Sarah thinks Silver Peak is the perfect romantic getaway and informs her about their annual Christmas dance where she fell for Graham's dad. Tracy asks if she can just freshen up first after a long day, and decides to find the room on her own. Graham is still fixing things in her room, so she assumes her room is the other one, so she enters Graham's room instead. When she's looking at photos, Graham clarifies that her room is next to his. When she seems surprised he's also living there, the conversation takes an awkward turn and he decides to take her to her room. He informs her about extra towels and breakfast timings and asks if there's anything else she needs. She's about to clarify about Mark, but Sarah and Barbara enter the room, with chocolate-covered strawberries and champagne for the couple. They end up ranting about how awful Parkview is for their business, but Graham can tell she's uncomfortable, so he takes everyone away. Sarah thinks they're off to a good start, but Tracy is more confused about what she should do. She discusses the situation with Annie and assumes she will be happy, since she wanted her and Mark to break up. Annie wanted her to realize she could do better, but she thinks Mark breaking up with her over the phone before Christmas is pathetic. Since Tracy is freaking out about people at the B&B hating Parkview and not having a romantic partner, Annie reminds her she has traveled alone to a lot of places and there's no situation she can't handle. The next morning, she asks what she can do around town, but Sarah and Barbara have many suggestions for romantic activities. They still feel the Christmas dance would have been perfect for her if they hadn't stopped doing it in town 5 years ago. She wants to do some non-romantic activities while she's alone, so Barbara suggests Graham can take her to the Christmas craft fair, since he knows the place really well. He doesn't want to impose, but she prefers to have a tour guide, so they agree he will take her after they decorate some Christmas cookies. Tracy hasn't decorated cookies since she was a child and thanks them for inviting her. Sarah shares a story from Graham's childhood where he made a snowman with 4 cookies since he always needed to eat while decorating. Tracy teases him about eating too many cookies, but he insists he needs the fuel to work. They're late for the Christmas fair and decide to head out soon. She asks for Graham's opinion on the onesie she's planning to buy for Annie's baby and thanks him for getting her there. Graham remembers the time from his childhood when he saved up money to buy a gift for his mother, based on his budget. It worked well for him till he lit up all sorts of candles and made a mess with the smell. She's more curious about why the Christmas dance was cancelled and learns that Grange Hall used to host the dance, which burned down 4 years ago. But before that too, the city council wanted to allocate the funds for the dance towards making the Parkview Hotel, which is why the dance had to be cancelled. When Tracy mentions how his parents would have loved to dance there, Graham informs her about his dad passing away 3 years ago. She feels very bad about everything his family has had to go through since then, but he suddenly gets uncomfortable and brings her back to the B&B. She thanks him for all his help, but he tries to make an excuse about wanting to work on something. He's back earlier than Sarah and Barbara expected and mentions that he hit it off with Tracy, but doesn't want to intrude since she has a boyfriend. He's also unwilling to discuss his bad mood, even when Sarah thinks he can't let the past dictate what he does in the future. She's also very concerned when she finds a post of Mark with another woman in Paris. She started following Tracy and stumbled on Mark's account through her. In the morning, Sarah and Barbara are still discussing how they don't like Mark and think that they should inform Tracy about him. They're sure she'll see the post soon, which she overhears and asks about. Barbara thinks she can do better, and when no one clarifies what she's talking about, she glances at the post on Sarah's phone. After looking at it, she confesses she hasn't been completely honest with them. She was embarrassed because Mark broke up with her on their porch right before she came in, so she didn't know what to say then. When she notices the photo again, she knows it's the woman from his Paris office who probably has the same interests as him. Graham apologizes and asks if she's okay, but Tracy thinks they weren't right for each other anyway. He remembers he has to fix something else and Tracy gets a call she needs to take. She runs to her room to speak to Sam, who wants to know which property she has chosen. She informs him about Parkview in Vermont, since she's nearby, and he asks if she can submit the review by next week. He's distracted, so she's not able to discuss the situation with him and just agrees to do the review. Tracy tries to help Graham with the Christmas tree, but he mentions her suing him since she has a law degree. She knows that if he found out about her law degree, he must have done a deep dive on her blog. When Sarah brings them hot chocolate, Tracy wants to know more about what Graham thinks of her blog. He's just curious to know how her parents reacted about her not using her degree. Her parents are lawyers and they expected her to be one too, but before she passed her bar, she randomly started her blog to update everyone at the same time about her life. She didn't immediately know blogging was her career path, so she did work at a law firm for a while. But she only enjoyed the traveling part and she kept blogging about her travels. 2 years later, she knew she wanted to enjoy her experiences. Now, her blog is ad-supported and she gets invited to amazing places, which is what she always wanted. When she asks about what he wants to do, he explains that after his dad passed away, he's just trying to keep the family business afloat. He's still afraid they might lose the place since he doesn't think they can compete with Parkview. Tracy thinks it doesn't have to be a competition and he can just focus on just winning back his customer base. She also knows her blog might help bring some people there, which Graham is also hoping for. She thinks they just need to make some noise and get people's attention, and randomly suggests throwing the Christmas dance. Graham loves the idea since the dance is very personal to the town and something Parkview would never do. She thinks they can do it next year, but Graham doesn't think the B&B will survive till then. Since they have to do it that week, she offers to stay back so she can help him organize the dance, and they start thinking about the venue. He shows her an open space near the B&B, and she feels like having such an event space can be a great additional revenue stream for them. He starts getting some ideas of what they can do with the place and shows her some decorations in the shed. She comes across a map Graham seems embarrassed about, since he has kept a track of all the places he has traveled to and wants to visit. She also notices a camera and knows he gave up his passion for photography to help out at the B&B. She thinks Sarah is very lucky to have him, and when he helps her get up, they get too close. Her phone rings right then and she discusses Chloe with Annie, the woman in Mark's office he was always rushing back to. She's happy for him and informs her that she's staying back a little longer to help Graham plan for the Christmas dance. Annie teases her about him, but Tracy insists she's only trying to help. After the call, he asks if she's ready and they head out to the diner to plan for the event. They know they need a lot more decorations, for which they can even cut down some evergreen bough or the branches nearby. Tracy thinks they can even have a bough decorating party. Dan wants to know what they're up to, even if Jenny asked him not to disturb them while they work. They discuss their idea of hosting the Christmas dance where, according to Tracy, they can even invite people from outside the town to help make the event bigger. Graham goes to talk to the electrician about the lights, leaving Tracy with Jenny and Dan, who thinks she has given Graham the extra push he needed to get excited about something. Jenny teases him about discussing his embarrassing childhood haircut with Tracy, so he takes her away to search for the branches. They want to discuss some things about the B&B with Sarah and Barbara, when Sarah informs them that because of Tracy posting a photo from their porch, they already have a lot of new followers and a booking for Valentine's Day. Dinner is served and Sarah is already on board with whatever they have planned, since Tracy has helped them so much. They want to know what it's like to run a travel website and if she gets lonely. Tracy loves her work, but she knows she would prefer a travel partner, so Barbara offers to be one for her. She mentions her offer from Luxe Voyage magazine, but they're all concerned about whether she will still post her cute videos if she joins them. She just feels like it's a great opportunity for her and is excited about it. Sarah gets a call about the bough decorating party she is hosting, and she learns about what Graham and Tracy have planned. They start decorating the area for the party and Graham even takes out his camera for pictures. He keeps clicking Tracy and is enjoying spending time with her. She's very proud of their decorations and Graham thanks her for everything. She wonders why his camera has stayed in the shed for so long, and he admits it's because of his dad. Barbara is headed towards them but stops to let them talk. He admits he used to love photography and travel, but his dad wanted a more serious and stable profession for him. He knows he can still do photography, but he promised his dad he would take care of his mother before he passed away. After him, Graham just sort of took his place and started looking after the maintenance of their property. He's had to struggle a lot with the finances after Parkview opened. But now that Tracy is here, he's sure they finally have a fighting chance. She's also happy to be there, but when she hears a rustling sound, Graham teases her about a bear being nearby. She helps him take the branches out but gets a call. He takes them for her so she can attend Annie's call, who has neglected one of her plants by not watering it. She has also noticed a photo of Graham and Tracy on the B&B's page and thinks he's very cute. Tracy admits he's amazing, but she knows they don't have any future since he's in Vermont, and she travels everywhere. Annie reminds her she has never been restricted by geography and wants her to tell Graham how she feels before she leaves. When Tracy looks at the photo Annie was talking about, she feels very happy. Sophie and Barbara gift her a special travel Christmas ornament, since she has brought so much joy to them this year. She notices a camera ornament and they discuss how they hope Graham gets into photography again. He watches this beautiful moment secretly and joins them to take the ornament from Tracy and puts it on the tree right next to hers. Barbara teases them about being the perfect pair, which makes them awkward. He finds an ornament they bought for their dog, Bernard, who used to love the tree. While Graham is still working, Sarah wants some time with her son. She wonders if he's working so hard because his father told him something before he passed. Graham asks if Tracy said anything to her, but Sarah clarifies that Barbara overheard them. She wants him to know that even if his father meant well, she thinks he should live his life the way he wants and not be stuck helping her. She wouldn't forgive herself if she stopped him from doing what he loves, just so he can take care of her. As Graham walks back to his room after the talk, he stops outside Tracy's place and wants to knock at her door. Meanwhile, Tracy is still looking at their picture and feeling very good. Sarah is preparing marshmallows for the bonfire that night and Tracy thinks it seems like a lot of work, since she usually just buys the bags. She gets herself a coffee and asks if she can help in any way. Sarah asks her to dust some marshmallows and shares how happy she is about her being there, and how well she works with Graham. She mentions that Graham has gone through some tough times with his dad and his last relationship, which ended very badly. But he's smiling again and she thanks Tracy for it. Sarah and Barbara welcome everyone to the bough decoration party and Tracy watches Graham teaching kids what to do. Dan and Jenny discuss how they thought Graham would travel the world, but he hasn't gone anywhere for a long time. Jenny thinks something has changed since Tracy arrived, since he seems much more awake. While Dan enjoys his treats, Graham comes back to join them. Tracy takes this moment to ask all of them for a selfie. She gets a call from Sam, who wants to know why she's posting pictures at the B&B when she's supposed to be reviewing Parkview. She insists she didn't know there was a rush to finish her article and she was already staying at the B&B when she took up the opportunity. When Sam thinks she's experiencing a conflict of interest by posting about Parkview's competitor, she mentions she doesn't think the B&B is their competition. Graham overhears this part and stays till she finishes her conversation with Sam, who wants her to review Parkview immediately since they're holding a room for her. She notices Graham outside her room and he feels the need to clarify what he overheard. He wants to know why she doesn't think they can compete with Parkview, but she thinks he's taking her out of context. She insists she's a travel blogger and she can't be partial like this, but Graham thinks if she was conflicted from the beginning, she should have spoken to him. She finally confesses that she's supposed to write a review for both and starts packing her bags. She seems hassled and wants to leave for Parkview immediately. She feels like she has already written a great review for the B&B and her job there is done. When she reaches Parkview, the room seems very clean with no trace of any kind of festivities. The staff keeps standing there till she gives them tips for Christmas, and she sadly sits on her bed since she doesn't know what to do. Graham discusses the situation with Barbara and Sarah, and thinks everything was not as wonderful as they thought, and it turns out Tracy was only there to do her job. Sarah thinks he's overreacting, so Barbara leaves them alone to talk. Sarah knows he's trying to push Tracy away because he's afraid of getting hurt again. He thinks it doesn't matter because she came here to do her work, help them, and just left. She insists again that he has her blessings to go out of town and live his life, because she would prefer if she didn't have to worry about him missing out on his life. Tracy calls the front desk at the Parkview to ask about any events where she can meet people, but only some outings are available for the next day. Disappointed that there's nothing festive there, she asks for an extra blanket and tries to politely talk to the staff, but the woman keeps the phone. When there's a knock on the door, she thinks it's Graham and goes out to check, but finds out someone has just left a blanket outside her door. Dan knows Graham wants to ask him how he knew Jenny was the one, since everyone can see something is going on between him and Tracy. Graham thinks he has ruined it since he always thought nothing could get better in his life. Now that it has, he doesn't know what to do about it. Dan explains that he loves Jenny because she makes him want to be better, and she loves him just the way he is. He knows Graham can figure out a way to get Tracy back and wishes him well. Tracy is getting bored in her room and doesn't know what to do, so she calls Annie and leaves her a message about her plans changing, because of which she might be back in New York for Christmas. She picks up her laptop to write a review for Parkview but struggles with what to put in it. It's the day the B&B is hosting the Christmas dance and everyone is enjoying the party. Tracy stops right before entering it and tries to get in touch with Annie. Barbara doesn't understand why Sarah is on her phone at a party and learns about Tracy's review of Parkview. They only read a few lines, but it mentions how everything at the hotel is modern and comfortable for travelers. Jenny and Dan are looking at the same review when Graham comes over and asks them to dance. They inform him about the review and Jenny gives him the phone. He notices how well it's written and Dan feels bad since they didn't think she would do it. Graham knows she's doing her job and asks them to enjoy while he takes a walk. Sam is very angry with Tracy because of the review, since she has given her opinion in it. He wanted her to write something favorable since his company has invested millions in the property. He starts shouting at her since their magazine has been acquired by the company that owns the hotel chain and he needs good ratings. He doesn't think what she was written will work for them. When he shouts at her again claiming to be her boss, Tracy gets annoyed and clarifies that it was just a trial article and she's sure now that she can't work for them. When Graham calls out to her, she apologizes for sounding unprofessional. Graham was upset when he initially read the review, but he reads out another part of it that mentions how cold and isolated the hotel feels. She has even mentioned that for people visiting the area, they should consider staying at the B&B, which feels more like home. Graham thanks her for not leaving, since he had called the hotel and assumed she has gone back to New York. Tracy knows she would just be running away if she left, and they both agree they don't want to do that anymore. She apologizes for not being honest with him from the start, but Graham asks her for a dance with him instead. They both seem happy when they head inside and she asks if he'll take pictures for the town. He is just taking some photos for the website to comply with his mom before he leaves town. He has plans to travel the world, but he just wants to be wherever she is, as her travel partner. Tracy is very excited to hear that, since she'll now compete directly with Lux Voyage and would love to have a professional photographer with her. Graham thinks they spent so much time planning the party, but now that they're there, he just wants some time alone with her. He thanks her for helping him find himself, and she thanks him for helping her not lose herself. They kiss in front of all the guests who are thrilled with their reunion.